Hands on top of your head.
Well, I didn't.
Now! Never jam. Get down and down. Here comes the jam. Getting down with the truth. The only way he knows how to. Girl, what's his name? We call him the chief. The chief. You're damn right. He's gonna get that sucker. Yo, track down the truth. You know what a track down the truth. You know and what do they call him? We call him the chief. The chief. You're damn right we do.
I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Good morning. This is Morning Coffee with the Chief. I'm your host, Patrick Jordan, here on Pop Culture Minefield. You can find us every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. and we review movies on YouTube and Rumble for Pop Culture's Minefield. And, you can also find me on X. My handle is at LASD Jordan, and I post about a wide variety of things. This week I posted, they posted a picture of like 6 math teachers from, I think it was Arizona, and they were wearing a T-shirt that said "Problem solved" with what looked like blood spatter on the shirt. And somebody said, well, this is about Charlie Kirk. And, and I disagreed. I said, you're going to need to show me a little more than that before you, and they put their names out there and said, let's destroy their lives. And I said, no, you're going to have to show me some specific tent on that one before you start destroying people's lives on X. And man, I tell you, I got like 700,000 views just because I said no. And a lot of them were MAGA. They were attacking me. But it was a good ratio. I had probably, 8 to 1 supporting me. And I just think before we start doxing and destroying lives on people on X, that they actually have some evidence as to what their intent was, particularly when it comes to this stuff that gets people so emotional. And they were emotional. This is clearly about Charlie Kirk. It's like, look, it was all on the left side. I go, okay, there's only the light, right, and left. What are the percentages? And they started selling the T-shirts a couple years ago, and they were math teachers that said problem solved. Yeah, what they're indicating is, it might get bloody, but you can solve the problem. And it was on Halloween. So, but anyways, I'm on X, and I comment about a wide variety of things. And so find me on X. You can also find me on Briefing with the Chief, and that's on KJRDB.com. I do a radio show and podcast on KJRA. You can find me on their Rumble and now their YouTube channel. So they have a KJRDB YouTube, and you can follow me there or subscribe there, I guess. And you go to Rumble, you can find me there. And tomorrow I am talking to a movement amongst in the African American community in Chicago to flip Chicago red. So it's interesting. I'm going to have these folks on, and they've been agitating and working their community to get it to flip red and turn Republican, which is a tall order there in Cook County, Illinois. But I'll have those folks on tomorrow. So definitely check out my show tomorrow on KJRA's Briefing with the Chief every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There it is. You can see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen, KJRDB.com. You can also find all the other versions of my show at KJRDB.com, Briefing with the Chief. And if you're an Angelino, my goal is to interview all the sheriff's candidates, because that's the big race here in Los Angeles County. And so far, I got one lined up. I'm gonna actually tape record a show this weekend and broadcast that probably next week. Andre White, a young detective, is running for sheriff. So tall order when you're just a young detective running. But we'll interview him and see what he's all about. I've already interviewed, let's see, a couple of guys: Oscar Martinez, and who's the other guy? Mike Bornman, and trying to get Brendan Corbett, who's going to run. So if you're an Angelino, watch my show. Also, I want to tell you, I did go to the gala for the LA Mission, and we raised some pretty good money there. I actually got a chance to meet the founder of Foo Fighters. He's a band, and he's involved in dealing with homelessness in Los Angeles County. He came, made a big donation amongst a bunch of other people who made $100,000 donations. They just raised their hands, said, "Yeah, I'm in for $100,000." I didn't do that because I don't have that kind of money, but it did contribute, and it's for a good cause. So if you're interested in helping out during the holiday season, please go to the Los Angeles Mission.org and make a donation today. They got their big event coming up here, Thanksgiving, which I got to volunteer for and go serve some food to the homeless this year. And do me a favor, go to their website, losangelesmission.org, and make a donation today. Now, today's movie is that we're going to review is The Highwaymen, and it's a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it. It's based upon a true story. And before we get into it, though, let me bring on our guests, and let's see. So we got our first one. We'll go in the order of their rank when they retired. We got retired Lieutenant John Baylis. He is from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and he's been on the show before. We always have a good time with this team. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. Morning. Was
Good
that
morning.
Dave Grohl that you had at the thing?
Where at?
Dave Grohl at the.
Yeah, that's who it was. The head of the Foo Fighters. Yeah, he was a really good guy, and he has a side hobby, and it's barbecuing. And so he has these big, huge barbecues as smokers, right? And so he smokes the meat. And I guess really he'll buy the meat, he'll buy everything. He gets his team together, and just buddies, and he fed like 2,000 homeless people at one.
Yeah, God bless him.
So they'll do all the sides as well. But, the smoking starts obviously, a meat well. It takes hours of cooking.
Oh yeah.
And he says, yeah, it's a passion of mine. I love doing it. And I thought, well, why not mix the two, good barbecue and feeding the homeless? And so he reached out, and that's what he does now as just kind of a side thing. He had just flown in from, I think, Canada, where he did a concert. So he's still active. They're still active. But it was really cool to see him doing what he does, and that he's given back in his way, right? And it was always non-judgmental. I just want to help people out who need help, right?
Yeah, he's always done something.
Right. Okay, our next guest is retired sergeant from the LA County Sheriff's Department, and he Scott Orr, and he has been with us before. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
I forgot my iPad, so I'm trying to kind of pull up this movie on the thing just so I can get all the stuff right. Highwaymen. Let's see here, and I this is based upon a true story. And I do have some photos that I'm going to show here in just a minute. Let me get the movie facts up here, though. I heard that Elon Musk is developing a Grokpedia to compete with Wikipedia, because I pull up Wikipedia for the movies. I figure that's fairly accurate, right? Because we know Wikipedia is not accurate on a lot of other stuff. But but Grokpedia is supposed to compete with Wikipedia and put it out. And it's going to be, based upon facts and not people's editing and putting their lies in there. So that'll be interesting. I think Elon Musk is going to take over the world one of these days.
This kind of money.
Just kick down some money to me, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to get adopted. That's what I want to get.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to adopt somebody older than him, but hey, I'm all for it. All right, hey, so what'd you think of the movie, John?
I didn't watch it this time because I don't get Netflix. They're too woke for me. But I watched it a couple years ago. It's an excellent movie, very well done, and I love the complimenting of Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. They're very good together.
Hey, Sally, thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to go over a really great movie. Scott, what'd you think? True story, but they actually did a pretty good job in the movie making, right?
Yeah, I watched it again, but I think this is probably the fourth time I watched it. I really like the movie. I really like the fact that it pretty much follows the truth all the way through.
I agree with you. When I was watching, because I'd done my research on these two guys and Bonnie and Clyde, and I don't know, I did the movie Bonnie and Clyde. Were either one of you part? I can't remember who I had on. And it was interesting, and I think Martine commented when we did that movie, is they glorified Bonnie and Clyde, and Bonnie and Clyde were stone cold killers, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they did not do that in this movie. I mean, they showed that they were kind of pop icons at the time, and people supported them, but they did not portray them as romantic at all. Like the Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway movie, Bonnie and Clyde, they portrayed them as absolute killers, stone cold killers.
Which they were.
Which they were, yeah. They killed
Absolutely.
12 people, mostly cops, and so that part of it I actually liked, because it's like it was the story of the cops who used the tactics and tools that were allowed at the time, because we couldn't do that stuff today, right?
So they're not gonna let us run around with the VAR.
No,
Yep.
no. And to take these guys out, right? And it would be some special tactical team, which I guess they were. But yeah, I liked it because it stuck pretty close to the true life of what happened. So
Yeah, earlier I read a thing on her, Bonnie, where she killed one of the cops. She killed. It was a state trooper. She shot him in the head and stood over him, put 5 more rounds in him. And she said she did it because she liked the way his head bounced off the concrete.
right.
That's when sick people. But Hollywood will always make them look so wonderful.
But if you remember in the scene, Kevin Costner's, he talked about this is her dragging her foot, that she flipped him over to shoot him in the face because she wanted him to see it coming. So they just the stuff that they did showed who they were, just vicious.
Oh yeah,
absolutely vicious killers. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, it's there, and it was Mike Ashcleese and Danny Kuhn. Okay, that's who I had on that show. But yeah, Martine, I think you did say that they glorified Bonnie and Clyde, and you didn't like that about the movie. I think it was you, or maybe it was Danny Kuhn. I can't remember.
It was me, and I will always say that. Stop romanticizing freaking criminals and murderers. What the hell?
Well, they did a pretty good job in this time not glorifying them. In fact, they gave the credit where the credit was due to the coppers who were doing a tough job and putting their life on the line. Although they had them pretty much set up dead to rights when they finally took them out.
Now, Chief, I don't know if any of you have seen the 2-part History Channel Bonnie and Clyde. It's a 2-part movie. I like the Hamer better on that.
Oh, okay.
Not that Costner made a bad job, not at all. But William Hurt played Hamer, and he played him as a much colder and calculating man. So it looks like the perfect hunter.
Well, he was, I mean, he was, and we'll get into how the Texas Rangers operated at the turn of the century, and when they were finally they were disbanded by Ma Ferguson, which we saw portrayed by Kathy Bates in the movie.
That was a fine idea.
Yeah, and they brought him back.
She wasn't too happy about that, having to bring him back.
Oh, I know, and in the end, she ends up taking credit for it. But hey, so the Highwaymen was released in 2019, an American period crime thriller based upon a true story by John Lee. It was directed by John Lee Hancock, written by John Fusco, and it stars Kevin Costner, Woody Harrelson. And Woody Harrelson, he's a good sidekick. I mean, he, with Matthew McConaughey, he's good.
They're great together.
And he did a good job with Kevin Costner here being kind of the sidekick. And Woody Harrelson, Costner as Frank Hamer, and Woody Harrelson as Manny Galt, 2 former Texas Rangers who were disbanded, then brought back. And they call them the Highwaymen because Ma Ferguson refused to call them Texas Rangers and just authorized them to be part of the Highway Patrol, temporary part of the Highway Patrol. That's why they're called the Highwaymen, right?
Yeah, she was a piece of work.
She is interesting, and but we also got Kathy Bates in it, John Carroll Lynch, Kim Dickinson, Thomas Mann, and William Sadler. Now William Sadler played Clyde's dad. Do you remember that?
Right, yeah.
And he kind of talks about how he might have went bad after he went to prison for stealing a chicken and all that stuff. But I thought it was a really good movie. Let's go through our pictures, Martine, before we jump in the movie. So we got a picture of the true Ma Barker, portrayed by Kathy Bates, who I think
Ma Ferguson.
I'm sorry, Ma Barker. I know. There you go. But Ma Ferguson, here she was, and she was actually the second woman elected as governor in the United States. She was elected twice in Texas. She had split terms, kind of like Trump was elected, then got bounced out and came back. And this was her second term. And I looked it up. Yes, she did disband the Texas Rangers. She disbanded them. People were angry about that. And she reluctantly brought Hamer back and Galt back to go after these guys. After the Clyde escaped from a prison camp that he was housed in, and shot 2 guards, right? So,
Right.
And typical politicians, she's embarrassed by what happened, so then she reacts by bringing people that she didn't want to work with in the past back. But that's her. And I think we got a couple pictures of Frank Hamer. So let's look at the real Frank Hamer.
Ma Ferguson, if you don't know, her husband was the governor, and he got deposed for corruption. And then she became the governor after that. Texas
they did talk about her having a little bit of corruption going on too. They never got her, but
Texas is very eclectic history.
But here's Frank. Here's and when you see him standing up in the next picture, he's it looks like a pretty big guy. As he's probably older, but he's dressed more like the cowboy look back. And the interesting thing about him is, the Texas Rangers were 2 things, right? They were a police agency, but also they were border patrol, right? Yep. And they monitored the border from the time of the founding of the Republic, the Texas Republic, and continued even as they joined the United States. They were kind of a militia as well, I guess is probably the best way to say it. And they tell a story in the movie about Frank leading a raid into Mexico. Well, that was actually part of the punitive raid by Blackjack Pershing. So,
right.
And I remember reading about that adventure. That into Mexico, they did mobilize the Texas Rangers to work with our army because the Texas Rangers knew the border better than anybody else in Texas, right? And there was a raid in Mexico, and they did kill a bunch of people in Mexico. So and you hear about it in the movie. And let's see, we got Galt is next, and let's see a picture of him. Let's see. There he is right there. Now he's a little older than Frank, and one of the things that I when I was doing my research on him, he was a very steady guy. Now they show him in here having alcohol problems, and it was explained that Harrelson's character was like a composite of characters, and some of them did have drinking problems, but Galt himself did not. In fact, when this was over with, they both went back to work for the newly reformed Texas Ranger, and he was a solid guy until he retired from the Texas Rangers. So good guy. And I think I got a picture. I got a picture of the 6 who took him out. This is the posse, I think. Right here. And here's all of them. Go ahead, Martin.
Hamer's on the right bottom, and Galt's right behind him.
Yeah, and you can see Galt's a little older than him.
Well, he looks older, but according to this, he's 2 years younger.
Oh, is he really?
1886 compared to 1884 for Hamer.
So
he looks old.
We got Ted Hinton here, right? And I think it was his boss or the sheriff or whoever. I think it was Dallas County. Weren't they from Dallas County? And then we had 2 Louisiana guys, right? It was Sheriff Jordan. There we go, right? And his one of his guys that made up the kind of the posse that kind of came together. They needed Hinton because he's the one who actually knew Bonnie and knew who she was, and he could identify him. So, but this is the guys, and they used a lot of firepower. But I also got a picture of the firepower that Bonnie and Clyde had. Let's show that one. Here's what they had. So what are we looking at there, Scott? Is that a BAR? And
yep.
Yes, it is.
Yep, 2 BARs, a sawed-off shotgun, 3 45s. I don't know if that's probably a 38 revolver, and a shit ton of ammunition.
I mean, the revolver's probably taken from a cop, but they raided an armory, which is what gave them the firepower, right? So, and but this is what they had, and this is why the cops. And I think we do have
I think that is what they had just in the car.
Just in the car, right? Yes. And we got a picture.
What she used.
We got a picture of a couple of coppers who met their end, I think, with Bonnie and Clyde. Did I send you that one? Yeah, this is the grapevine killing. So Murphy and Wheeler, a couple of motorcycle cops, didn't know what they were dealing with, and they just popped up heavily armed and shot them and then finished them off with their BARs. So can you imagine you got 38s, and I think these guys did have a shotgun on their cycle, but by the time you get that out, and you're wide open there, Jesus, So this is just 2 of the 12 they killed. So.
Yep.
And they talk about this one in the movie. So that's our going down history lane with all the pictures. There's a lot of great background on the Bonnie and Clyde story. But let's roll with the very first scene here. And I just called this one Clyde Barrow. This is his escape from the farm. And you think I thought initially that the guy you see here is actually him. And you don't really see Bonnie and Clyde that much in this movie. And that's their way of not glorifying them, right? This was one of the guys that was escaping with him. And this is a true story. This is the Eastland prison camp. Somebody had secreted a couple of 45s for these guys to get and do the breakout, right? And which is what they do. And they do shoot a couple of the guards. I don't think they killed the guards here. They shot them.
Oh, yes. One, I think, dies instantly, and the other dies of the wound.
Oh, they did die. Okay. I didn't think
that's why it propels Lee to propose the using of the X-Rangers.
The X-Rangers, yep. And of course, Bonnie's nearby, right? And she's shooting off a machine gun to create a disturbance. So here's the guy we see later in the movie. And he's with them. Now, I don't know why this guy was actually out on the streets later in the movie. Maybe he got away and stayed away. But these guys, what are these guys carrying, Scott? That's just a regular
shotgun.
Okay, yeah.
Probably an old Ithaca.
Yeah, probably, right. Then they sold them to the sheriff's department when they were done with them, and we used them into the 2000s. And so here's them getting their 45s. Now, okay, so I guess I got to tell the story. So when you do research on Clyde, they say that he was like a little schoolboy when he was arrested and went to prison for some minor thefts, and that he was sexually abused because he's not a big guy, by some guy named Big Ed Kreider, something like that, and that's what, and he ended up killing him with a lead pipe when the guy tried to assault him again, and some other guy that was already doing a life sentence took the weight for Clyde, said, "No, I'll tell him I did it," and he eventually get paroled. But they said that's what turned Clyde around and made him this evil, vicious killer, was what happened to him in prison. I don't know how much of that is true. I don't know how much of that is romanticizing Clyde to explain away his violence, but that's what's in accepted history about Bonnie and Clyde. I don't know if you saw that, John. Did you get a chance to read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's hard to because there's so much romanticization of these guys. Well, what's the truth and what's not the truth? And
this is true.
And I was thinking, well, that's a possibility, but was that just planted? Just to make him a sympathetic character? I don't know.
That time when they were out and you had all the other, was that Machine Gun Kelly and all those other guys, a lot of them were romanticized because they were taking from the rich and giving to the poor type thing, like Robin Hood, and they weren't. But that's what they did. The writers, everything.
Right. And we can't forget that this was during the Great Depression. So people lost everything. There was like 30%, maybe 40% unemployment rate. And robbing the banks was the thing to do, right? Back in the day, because that's where the money was. They were the ones taking people's property back. And here's the Thompson machine gun that Bonnie was using to do a distraction, basically. And but this was actually true. What happened here? This prison break, and Clyde wanted to get a gang of people to go back, and he was so angry what happened to him at this Eastland prison camp, and kill everybody, kill all the guards, and kill the leadership or whatever. So there was something that definitely happened there that motivated him to be more than just stealing minor stuff.
Probably the beatings from the guards too.
Guards never beat anybody. Come on, John.
Back in those days, man.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, the 1890s.
Yeah, the 1890s.
Yeah, it was different. I also saw this was probably typical. They're all on horses, right? This is kind of a la Cool Hand Luke. What you see here.
I worked for the guy in the sheriff's department who worked for the prison system, and he rode a horse. Remember Big Joe Fratangelo?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he would. So that's why his nickname was Water Boss, because he would be up on his horse, and the inmates would come up and go, "Water? Can I get water, boss?" So his nickname was Water Boss.
Was that the movie or?
No, that's in real life. And we're like, well, what size was your horse? Because Joe was about 6'4", 6'5", probably 300 pounds.
Yeah, you remember?
It was like a Clydesdale.
You remember Dave Disbro? He was on the mounted team. He was a big guy. And
he had a poor horse.
And he had a Clydesdale. He had this freaking. And when I used to hire him and the mounted guys to come and patrol Universal City. I had a little overtime budget, and when I had big events, because you know what, that we were getting ripped off in the parking lots, and I put those guys on horses in the parking lots, and everybody freaking saw those guys, because you're not used to seeing a horse and somebody like Dave Disbro on top of a Clydesdale, this 280-pound guy with the campaign hat, the Smokey the Bear hat.
Yep.
They stand out, and then every now and then, if I had a problem, I'd bring them down the midway or the main it's an entertainment zone, Martine. So the main drag had all these shops and restaurants, and every now and then, and we'd get some thugs up there every now and then, and I bring those horses in, and man, it kept things calm. And Universal Studios, they loved it. And so I used to bring Dave out, and he usually had a partner with them, and it was interesting because they also had their they had their shovel and their broom, and they would pick up the drops.
Yep.
And put them in there in a bag.
I didn't know till I worked overtime at West Hollywood for the Halloween parade or celebration, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was a felony if you punched a horse.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
We had some gangsters decide to pinch the butts of some UCLA girls who were there with their football boyfriends. So the fight's on, and we're trying to at Crenshaw and Santa Monica, we're trying to disperse everybody, and some drunk fool ran out, punched the horse. That horse turns, knocks him down, and then just does a dance on it.
Oh my God!
So remember Joey Hirsch?
Yes. Yeah, he was a mounted guy.
He was a sergeant for the mounted patrol. So he comes over, and I said, "Hey, dude, I don't know. How do you want me to handle this?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I got it. I said, "Well, that horse this guy was a pole. It just, I don't know how many bones it broke." And he goes, "Oh, no, it's all good. He's going to jail for a felony anyway." And I go, "A felony?" I go, "For what?" He goes, "He punched a horse." I'm like, "That's a felony?"
Well, if you think about one, the horse is just defending itself, right? So
right,
so that's there. Here's Kathy Bates' Ma Ferguson. I want to say Ma Barker because she probably played good Ma Barker too. But you're right. My last day working West Hollywood was Halloween. So and I got in some political grease over there. I was doing the right thing. They didn't want me to do the right thing, and so I was invited to leave. That's how I ended up at Transit. But before I leave, they had me in charge of every war demonstration, every crowd control, so all the things that I could get me in the grease, I was the incident commander for, right? My last freaking day there, they said, "Well, we need you to be the incident commander for Halloween." And I'm like, you're kicking me out of this place, and you're putting me. So we got 80,000 people. We have Pink was playing just in front of the sheriff's station. We had Berlin down the street. We had 80,000 people in the streets, and I think they gave me about 80 guys to handle it. And I brought the mounted guys out, and I said, "Okay, Dave, you guys got this intersection. They can't go past here. And when we clear them out, I need you to, when we start, just slowly walk when it's time to clear these guys out after the bands are playing." But yeah, it was like, it was huge. But I always, whenever I got a chance to use the mounted guys for the crowd control, I always did, because they're very effective. LAPD used them recently, and they were doing a good job.
Oh, they're very effective.
Yeah, you got this 2,000-pound animal kind of pushing at you, and people get out of the way. And then
I
they got
told
You always used them.
I told Jim
effectively.
Farrell I'd never work overtime there again.
oh, you never did.
Yeah.
He called me up and
Loads of
said,
fun.
I need a sergeant. Can you help me out? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I'll put you in a great place. You won't have to do anything. You put me at the main intersection. What do you mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. I transferred out. That was my actual lack of working shift. Then I transferred to like Saturday, and then I ended up transit on like Monday. So I'm like,
Wow. Well, they
yeah.
were good at that in West Hollywood.
Yeah. It was funny
No
because
comment.
somebody came up to me and says, they're talking about how it was a mistake that they're letting you go because I don't know how many crowd control things I handled there. It was you had first you had the Sunset Strip, which was off the hook, with all the clubs. Then you had New Year's Eve and you had Halloween, but we also had the war demonstrations going on in the Federal Building, right? And so I was a DB lieutenant, and they kept shifting my schedule so that I could handle these protests. And I said, why do you keep shifting my schedule? Well, because you have the tactical knowledge to handle it. I said, I have the tactical knowledge, I have the ability, but yet I'm not politically correct.
Well, and all the other sergeants, lieutenants were DEI. So, anyways, but hey, did you ever see? Speaking of horses, did you ever see the NYPD one where the Antifa girl takes something and smacks the back of the horse? The horse turns around and kicks her right in the face.
Ooh,
I did not see that.
That is the best one.
That's justice.
Well, I will say, just on a practical standpoint, the guys on the horses in this movie, you're way up. You can see a lot more, right?
Oh yeah, big
right.
time.
So you can see over the little hills and where all the inmates are at, and of course you can chase them down if they start running, right?
Yeah.
Plus, of course, they got guns. So I don't know. I just the thing about the horses, they're very practical. Is kind of the way I see it. Let's roll with the next scene there, Martine, and this is Kevin Costner. We'll get to see him, and their first approach of him to deal with Bonnie and Clyde. Here he's in his car. Oh, he's already hooked up with his partner, but he is. I kind of explained this a little bit. They wouldn't let him be Texas Rangers, so they called them the Highwaymen, which is what gave way to the title here. And this is kind of Ma Ferguson being a jerk. She wouldn't just let them get their Texas Rangers badges back. But this was probably their success in doing this probably helped to reconstitute. I mean, that's what's implied. Reconstitute the Texas Rangers into what they are today, right? Yeah. They're kind of the main investigative agency in Texas for the big stuff. They're like LAPD's robbery homicide, right? And so that's what I see here. And they also are kind of like the state's U.S. Marshals, right? If they need to get their guy, they'll put the Texas Rangers on it as well. But here's Kevin Costner looking middle-aged as he is in the movie, and here's the guy that's coming to hire him, and he's got a beautiful wife, of course. It's interesting because they said after he was they disbanded the Texas Rangers, he went to work for a bunch of oil companies and became very wealthy, providing security for them.
His wife was rich too.
It's amazing that he worked tons of different jobs. It's like every couple of years they went to another marshal or another sheriff or whatever, and then back to the Rangers again.
Yeah, and he was kind of like a rock star as a cop, right? Particularly after he takes out Bonnie and Clyde, but even before then, right? Yeah. At least in Texas, right? Because they kind of honored their lawmen back then. Still do probably, unlike in California, right?
Well, the driver says this when they're pulling up to the house. He's like, "This doesn't look like no famous gunfighter's house."
No. Yeah, well, he's been what do they call it? Domesticated here is kind of what is inferred in the show, right? As we all are, to some degree. When you get no offense, ladies, but when we get married, we get a little domesticated, and that's what you kind of see in this movie. And I don't know. I like Kevin Costner. I don't know what your guys' favorite movie with Kevin Costner is. I mean, I like The Untouchables. That was a great movie.
Yeah.
What's your best favorite movie, Kevin Costner, Scott?
Oh wow. Well, this is one of them, considering I've seen it like 4 times. Dances with Wolves was, you did a really good job in that, and of course my wife loves Kevin Costner. They both went to the same college.
Oh,
so
she probably likes The Bodyguard. She probably likes The Bodyguard, right?
Oh yeah, my wife likes The Bodyguard too.
Yeah.
It's
He's
the romance,
good movies,
romance epic.
He's really done. He's the executive producer for this too.
Now another one, a more recent one that I really like with him is Open Range. At the shootout scene, have you seen? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, with Robert Duvall.
Oh, fantastic shootout scene.
Robert Duvall's the best, but yeah, that was a good movie.
I mean, I never watched Yellowstone, but I've seen some clips.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal.
Like when the tour bus is taking pictures of the bears or whatever. Yep. He gets a shotgun out.
That whole show, though, I got to tell you, it was very well done.
Yeah.
Very well done.
All right, John, your favorite movie, Kevin Costner.
Well, I was going to say Dances with Wolves, like he said, and like I said, my wife, who would be, The Bodyguard, because that's the big romantic epic. But when he first came out, I didn't know who he was. And he played an ensign who was actually a spy with Gene Hackman.
Yeah,
No Way Out.
No Way Out. He was good in that one. I liked him in Silverado. Remember?
Silverado was excellent.
Good movie. Like really good cast in that movie.
Another one that got shitty reviews, but it was actually not bad, was Waterworld.
I didn't like the movie. It
wasn't bad. It was just different.
Yeah,
it was bad.
It was bad. All right, All right, Martine, you're up here. What favorite Kevin Costner movie?
Untouchable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
I did say that one. I liked him in that, but him and Sean Connery. There's so many good movies about Sean Connery, but I liked him in that and The Untouchables, the Chicago
Sean
way.
Connery was phenomenal.
Yeah. So Kevin Costner's played in a lot of good movies. I would say a more recent one, like I said, I liked Open Range a lot. Particularly the shootout scene at the end. That was.
That was.
I think I've seen that movie probably 6 times. My wife says, "You've seen this before?" Yeah, well, it's okay, right? So.
Yeah.
And I liked Robert Duvall's name. Okay, I'm not going to tell you my name. Well, what's your name, boss? I'm not going to go into my grave. It's the Blue Bonnet Spearmint, Blue Bonnet Spearmint, or Blue Bonnet Spearmint. And I go, that was good interplay with him, and he's had a lot of movies where he's got good partners to interplay with, and this is one of them. So here's his beautiful wife who doesn't want him to go back on the road. I don't know. I think I have a beautiful wife like that. I don't think I'd want to go back on the road either. So
she knows he's gonna. This scene we watched before, and I'm like, this is exactly what would happen if somebody showed up out here and said, "Hey, we need you to come do this for us." She'd be like, "I'm going to paint the kitchen."
Hey, I got a little background on her too.
She knows in her heart that he's going to do it.
Yeah, he's going to do it. But that's who he is.
Right? Can't help it.
That's who he is. Yeah, that's who he is.
Go
ahead, John.
That wife, she was accused of murdering her previous husband with her brother.
Oh, in real life?
Yep. And they were acquitted. But yeah, they thought it was that they murdered, and he married her after that trial.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
Wow. I'd have to sleep with a gun under my pillow if that's who I married.
Shit.
Maybe, when I said he's domesticated, then maybe there's a real reason why. You got to sleep sometime, right? So, but he eventually does do it, right? But this was just a good opportunity to talk about Kevin Costner and his good movies, and like I said, I really like him as an actor, and and this guy, I can't remember. He's a pretty good character actor too. I can't think of his name now, but
John Carroll Lynch.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the behind the scenes discussion that he has with Ma Ferguson. No, we don't need that. Yeah, we do. We need Frank Hamer, right? And I could imagine that a bunch of people sitting around being embarrassed, the governor being embarrassed, and they'll say, "This is who we need. These guys are running all over the country, killing people. They've embarrassed you. They embarrassed administration, and we disbanded our one organization that's effective at going after them. We need to bring these guys back." I can see that discussion happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
With a group
Especially
of politicians. All right. So I'll tell this story. So I was working at Universal, and we had a couple of thugs. I think they were Chinese, the Wachings or something like that. And remember Feng Lum's, the restaurant, the Chinese restaurant,
Yeah.
just about halfway down. Well, they went in to extort the owner, and of course he was very friendly with the deputies. We always got some nice food to eat there. And so I got a call. I was in charge of the 6 guys that operate up under there, and we had just disbanded our Asian crime task force. Just disbanded, right? And so I go there and I'm talking to him, and he's telling me what's going on. It's straight extortion thing. You pay us, or we're gonna hurt you and hurt your daughter. And he had a cute little daughter, who's probably in her late 20s. And he says, "Well, should I call my friend?" Well, I said, "Who's your friend?" Mike Antonovich, who was, for those listening, he's a very powerful member of the Board of Supervisors at the time. I said, "Yeah, go ahead and call your friend." So he calls him, who calls the sheriff, and suddenly Asian Crime Task Force is rolling on over there, and they end up taking those guys down. So does it happen behind closed doors? Absolutely. When the right person is targeted,
right.
or the politicians are embarrassed, the disbanded unit comes back to take care of business. I want to say the name of the investigator was, Scott, you might know him, Bill Howell, Asian Crimes Task Force, Bill Howell, and a wealth of knowledge, And
we used to use him when I went on loan to, of all places, Walnut, for their Asian crimes, which I had was like a fish out of water.
Yeah, no shit.
I mean, we're pulling cars over, and it was Thompson. I can't remember his first name. He's part of the Tanaka crew. Greg Thompson.
Greg Thompson.
We drive by this little, lowered Mazda or whatever. We whip a U-turn and we follow him, and they hit a bump and sparks are coming up. So he's like, "Oh, they got modified suspension or whatever." So we pull him over and we get a gun out of the car, and I'm looking at 2 kids who look like they just left, some after-school.
Right.
And the guy was phenomenal, but we used him a couple times there they had, a lot of good inroads with the Chinese community in Roland Heights and stuff like that. So,
yeah, they ended up, after that thing, they ended up reconstituting. I think they put them under different, they didn't have the name so they had kind of sent them off to the hinterland, but they brought them back into major crimes, not as Asian Crimes Task Force, but like part of major crimes, and then they would just do their specialty there. Yeah, but he was a wealth of knowledge. I mean,
we had our favorite restaurant. The Russians were trying to extort her. From that barbershop.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that. Sunset. Yeah. Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So I went there with, I think at the time I was the training and scheduling sergeant, and I went there with the crew from training and scheduling, and she hit me up and she says, "Hey, the guys in the barber shop are really putting a lot of pressure on us. They're blocking us from people parking. They're sitting in all the seats in front of the rest, smoking cigarettes." And she goes, "They're basically trying to force me out."
Hadjit Lada?
Yeah, Jazz. So we had the guy from, he was a Russian guy who came over he was Spetsnaz in Russia. So I call him in. I said, "Hey, I tell him where it's at." And he goes, "Oh, I know who those are." He goes, "I'll take care of it." I said, "Because tell them they keep messing with her, they're not going to like what I'm bringing." I go, they won't have any place to sit other than the county jail, so they can keep playing their damn games. He goes, "Oh, I'll let them know. I'll let them know." We went back there a week later. They're waving. Remember how they just kind of look at us all, smoking? They're waving at us.
We knew they were dirty the first time we went there.
Yeah, she goes, "I don't know what you guys did, but it's been so nice this last week." So I call him up again. I bring him into the office. I said, "Hey, what did you say?" He goes, "Oh, I didn't go talk to them." I go, "Well, who'd you talk to?" He goes, "I just talked to the guy that I know would talk to them."
Yeah, okay, we got to explain this. So, folks, this was the best Thai place in L.A., right? LA
in the
City,
world.
In the world. And these 2 guys loved that place, and they loved, the hotter the better. And we'd
Rick
go there.
Crago loved it so hot.
Oh, those guys, we'd all go, and the boss had to come, and I was the boss. And I'm not into I'm Irish patty guy. I'm not into that super hot stuff, right?
But
And
good.
I would always get the watercress salad because it was tolerable in terms of heat. And these guys, they would be all beet red, dripping, and oh yeah, the better. And I'm like, how are you guys enjoying your food? But and I went because I really liked the owner, even though I wasn't big on the food.
Oh, she was great.
She was a sweetheart, and
love the cops.
They were on Food Network 4 different times.
Were they really? Yeah, she, and that's why those Russian people were bugging in there because she was successful. They didn't like that, right? So, look, I'm glad you did your good deed for the day for her, anyway. So I don't know if she.
Yeah, if you look at that parking lot, it was so small, but
yeah,
the mailbox place and the other stuff, everything on that side was all Russian mafia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dirtbags.
Yeah, I just remember the one Russian mafia story with Pickett and Doe. So they go up on a loud car running in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. They knock on the door. This guy comes to the door.
Yep.
Remember this one? He had a 45 or something like that. They end up taking him down, and inside was a guy that they had killed, and they dismembering him, chopped off his fingers, put him in a Budweiser a beer bottle, and they were Russian mafia, and they were doing paper crimes, but they were arguing over the cut, I guess, and so one guy got cut out, I guess. So, but they were brutal guys.
The guy that came to the door with the gun also had a apron full of blood.
Yeah, the Plumber Park was. If I remember going there and jamming up some folks who were causing a problem, but they were Russian. And what happens is they're all in the park. All the Russians will then surround you, right?
They're all
I guess they called us the boys because we were all young guys, right? And so they would surround you, and you knew, okay, this is not good because they're all from the Soviet Union at the time, right? And they were buying the stolen property off the hypes. That's what was happening in Plumber Park. Those guys, because that's part of their culture coming from the old Soviet Union. Okay, let's roll with our next scene. Now, this is gun shopping. I know you guys will enjoy this scene. I enjoyed this scene.
Oh, that was the best part of the movie.
The gun shopping.
That's Texas.
And I read.
I think you can still do that in Texas.
Where
gun shopping.
Well, apparently, the 45 Thompson submachine gun.
Yeah.
They weren't penetrating Barrow's car, so he wanted those BARs.
30-06 will penetrate a car.
Huh?
Is that what's the BAR, Scott? What's the shell?
Browning automatic rifle.
Well, no, but it's what's the shell size?
308, right?
30-06.
30-06.
Yeah, that's
a big ass bullet.
That's a big ass bullet.
I was working Universal again. God, I'm talking all my Universal stories, and we had a guy who was across the street at a park called Weddington Park, which I don't think exists anymore. And he was disgruntled. He was fired, I think, from kind of the crafts area. You know how the carpenters, all that stuff that worked on the movies and all that stuff. He was fired, and he decided to take a 30-06 and shoot at the 15-story. So it was sniping, right? 15-story Universal headquarters, right? And those bullets went. It was kind of a glass. It had the glass facade on each side, and they went right through. It went one out through, and because do they have a kind of a solid core, Scott? Do they or no?
Well, it depends. You can get the what do they call now? They got the little red tip on them. That's when they impact, it forces the bullet to expand.
So yeah, and
they have lead. Where it's lead, copper jacketed lead rounds, but 30-06 is originally it's for taking down large game.
Right.
Yep.
Very large game. So that's where the 30-06 came from before they started with these, much bigger calibers. But
yeah, it went right through both sides of the building. So some of the rounds.
Glass? That's not going to stop.
Yeah, it's even that industrial thick glass. Yeah, it went right through that stuff, and LAPD got the guy just before we got there because he was shooting from LAPD's area into the sheriff's area. But yeah, so I thought he's just asking for all these guns, but this is if you saw the Bonnie and Clyde arsenal, And you know that they had raided an armory, and so they were armed with military grade weapons. And this is what so this was a fun scene. I don't know if he did, if this part of the story is true, but it was fun watching him. What'd you think of the scene, John?
Oh, it was a great scene. It's probably, bumped up a little bit than in real life. But, he did. I read that he wanted the BAR because the Thompson submachine gun, the 45s, went in the door and then just died. So they wanted to blow those doors clean off.
Well, back then the doors were actually made of steel.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. That's why you had to go for the bigger rounds.
What'd you think of the cars? Cars in the movie, John? Fantastic cars, right?
Oh, 1932 or 28.
Yeah.
Fords.
Yeah.
Heavy. When they really made a car right.
So, some of them were 4 cylinders. I got a 4-cylinder, so I don't know what their top speed was, but yeah, I think the styling of those cars they're beautiful, right? This is the
gorgeous,
streamlined modern kind of look, and so I just like the way the shape of the cars, the lines of the cars, as well in this movie.
Did you ever go to the car museum in Somar?
I have not. The Peterson. I have not.
No, it's not Peterson. I can't think of the name. It starts with an N.
I'll have to check it out because it's something I want to do.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they have the beautiful floors, and they move those cars with air lifts, so it doesn't put any marks on the floors. But they got everything there. Amazing vehicles.
He's carrying all the weaponry. What do you think, Scott? You want all of them?
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I mean, just go in there and pick whatever heavy caliber gun you can find.
I was
bringing out a whole case of ammunition.
I was working with a guy, and you would know him, but I won't say his name in the air. But we were partners for a few months, and he was a little behind on his rent, and I said I just covered him for a few $100, and he gave me a gun, and I said, well, how many guns do you have? And he said, I've got 96. I'm thinking, what?
Holy shit!
96 guns. And these back in the 80s, they were still a couple $100 for a good revolver, right? And $300 and so. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, you got a fortune just in an arsenal. What are you going to do? How do you shoot them all?
Exactly. That museum, by the way, Nethercutt Museum.
Nethercutt. Okay, I'll have to check it out because
phenomenal.
I actually never been to the La Brea Tar Pits either. I got to go there, right? I just never have been.
You had kids and you never went there?
No, I think they might have went in a class, but I never went. So
we took the kids there probably 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I went there as a kid with a class.
Yeah. So I like the hats. I'm sorry. I think I was born in the wrong era. I like the dress. I like the hats. I don't think I like the fat ties they have. The fat ties that only go to your mid waist or don't go to your waist. But I do like the cars. I like the hats. I think they're all kind of cool. Now
everybody had a fedora.
I'll be back in a second.
All right, man. We're got another 5 minutes. We take a break, but okay. So here's Harrelson. He looks pretty old in this flick, John.
On purpose.
On purpose, obviously, and he looks like he's past his prime. But these guys are probably in their 50s, late 50s, when they're doing this stuff. And
I forgot to tell you. I hate to go back, but I told you about Hamer's wife accused of killing her. After they got married, they stopped a couple days later at a gas station, and her ex-husband that died, that supposedly was murdered, his brother-in-law and another guy were following them, and they got in a shootout. And the guy, Gus Means, was also a Texas Ranger, and he and Hamer got wounded, and Hamer hit him dead straight in the heart and killed him.
Wow.
These people, I'll tell you, they have a wide assortment of a history.
Yeah, Texas got a lot really interesting. It is an interesting history, Texas, and I don't know. The fact that they had to go into Mexico every now and then to go after the criminals and all that other stuff.
But, they call here the The Bandit War and the
Yes.
and there's
I
another
read-
word for it.
Hey,
Yeah,
Cam, I hope you enjoyed this movie, you know, Cam, and appreciate you stopping by and listening to us. Yes, Harrelson and Costner had great chemistry.
Oh, absolutely.
The BAR scene is funny. Yeah, I don't think I used that one. You're talking about the one where they're at the water and these guys are having trouble. They're shooting and I'm sorry. I think if you're a decent shot, you're going to hit even as you're in your 60s. You know, it is a perishable skill, but if you've been a good shot your whole life, you're going to hit the sign from that distance. That's what I thought. But the BAR definitely equals things up there, right? So
yeah.
I you know, if I had to go into what I think was, I always tried to have my shotgun. I liked getting that shotgun out because, I mean, I was a decent shot, but I wasn't a crack shot. And if I was dealing with somebody who I knew was armed, if I could get to my shotgun, I always deployed that thing.
It's funny because we were talking to our neighbors, and then the wife says, "We need a shotgun." I said, "I have plenty of shotguns. Do we have one for home defense?" And I'm like, "No, not really. They're all bird guns." She goes, "We need one for home defense." We went out and bought a Mossberg, a 9-shot home defender or whatever.
You know, if I got an old Ithaca, I would get it because they were they worked. You know,
So Ithacas were excellent.
Yeah.
You know, our department, that's one of the few good things they did for equipment. They never went down.
Well, I got on that list to buy one. So when it's my turn to get it, you know, they just brought them out. They didn't let you choose. They just brought one out and handed it to you. You never got to sit and look at them.
Right.
And they brought the one I was going to get. And I'm like, no way in hell I'm paying for it. I'd spend more money trying to fix that thing. All the bluing was gone. The stock was cracked. The rack. Yeah. I mean, before it had a chunk of wood missing out of it. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I bet you if you were a chief, you'd have got your selection, right? So,
oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lily Sargent wasn't getting shit.
All right, Martine. We are give me one comment. What do you think of the cars here, and then let's go to break.
I didn't like the how those the 4V8 looks nice.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the American cars at the time.
You didn't? Well, what other cars existed?
Well,
German, I guess, huh?
Yeah. German and British.
German and British.
Oh my God, British cars.
Oh, I'm not talking about how well or bad they perform. I'm talking about how they look.
I will say the lines on a lot of the British cars, the Jaguar back in the day, are beautiful too.
Bentleys,
the Rolls,
the Silver Ghost. Oh my God, that is a.
Yeah, we used to see those occasionally rolling down the Sunset Strip. The old Rolls Royces, you know, that Hollywood, old Hollywood had them, and every now and then you'd see one roll down the Sunset Strip, going to Spagos, right, and Swifty Lazaro parties.
If I had a car like that,
I know. I want to be perfectly clear, and I hope nobody in the audience gets mad about me, but exclude the French cars of the.
Oh
my God, they were idiots.
Ugly cars.
Yeah, fuck the French.
I think, I was.
Tell us how you really feel.
Hey, Gambit, how you doing? I will say the Fiats. I like some of the Fiat styling of their cars, but yeah, there wasn't. That's Italian though, right? But I can't. Yeah.
Yeah,
all right, we are at the halfway mark. Martine, are we all queued up for our halfway commercials?
Yeah.
So we are. All right, we'll see you guys in 2 minutes.
There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all. Movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews. And interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield, Well, they're always talking nerd stuff. Right, jog on then. There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all. Movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop Culture Minefield. Well, they're always talking nerd stuff. Right, jog on then.
All right, welcome back to Pop Culture Minefield, Morning Coffee with the Chief. We're going over the movie The Highwaymen, starring Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. And we got to catch up on some scenes here. Let's roll with Ted Hinton scene. This is a scene where these guys they go. I believe it's Dallas County, so they've kind of pegged out I want to say a circuit that Bonnie and Clyde do, and they always return home. And Dallas area in Texas is where they are from, or at least I think Bonnie is from. And they talk to the sheriff there, and the sheriff assigned somebody from his staff to help who actually knew Bonnie, went to high school with her, and that is Ted Hinton. He ends up being part of the six that take her down. Now, what I liked about this is, okay, they're not going to, the FBI, when they first started going after, public enemy number one, they created that public enemy number one thing. They were more just an intelligence agency. They weren't really chasing criminals, and Hoover decided, let's go after these crooks. And that's really what made their name. However, they got some shootings where they shot innocent people, not real. Like there was one up in, I think it was Wisconsin. I think they thought they were going after the Barker gang, and they got it wrong, and they killed a couple of farmers up there, and it just completely blew it. I mean, it's because they didn't have somebody who actually knew it. They said, "Oh, I think that looks like them," and they opened up. Without, in this case,
college boys.
Who was it?
Yeah, some college students, Melvin Purvis, and
yes, that's right. They ended up killing people who they thought were the guys, and so when you see this scene and you think of it, okay, Hamer here is going to make sure. All right, I want somebody who actually knows who they are, because he wants to get it right. He wants to get their man, and so that struck me as this is somebody who's experienced, right? This is somebody who's been down this path before, and he says, yeah, okay, well, great. Not only does he know the area, but he knows them, and I just thought this was an important scene because it indicates a degree of professionalism that maybe didn't exist back in law enforcement. Some of the law enforcement agencies that were chasing Bonnie and Clyde at the day, right? So just good police work. They go to the locals. Hey, we need help. Can you give us some help? Yeah, not only I'll give you help, I'll give you somebody who actually knows what Bonnie looks like. So I don't know. What'd you think of the scene? And this is how they start picking up their crew that's going to take them down. What'd you think, Scott?
No, this is the epitome of how things should work.
Right.
And along the lines of FBI, when I was working at Carson, I come into work on early mornings, and there's a huge semi trailer and all these antennas everywhere. And then Jared Kiono tells me, hey, you need to go downstairs and talk to the FBI agent in charge. They're going to be in your area. So I go down there and they got this whole thing set up, and they tell me it's regarding some kind of kidnapping and drugs and all this stuff. And I said, okay, well, what do you want from me? Well, we would just want you to know we're going to be in the area. I said, okay, well, what house you looking at? So he tells me the address, and I'm like, and where the house is at. And I'm like, I don't think that's the house. That's not the house. Oh, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not the house. That's an old couple. Every night he goes out and makes sure his cars are locked, and I drive by and wave at him. That's an old couple. I don't think that's the house. No, we know that's the house, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right. So I go out, go through briefing, go out, and I drive around. All the FBI agents are parked behind the First Interstate Bank, which is the path that the gang members walk to go to 7-Eleven. So I go back and tell them, hey, all your agents, because I jam up a gangster, and he's like, what are all the feds doing? I said, I don't know. They're having a party or some kind or whatever. Then I had to go back and tell them, you got to move your guys. So they moved up to the university. So I go home later that night or in the morning. I come back the next night. Everything's gone. Apparently, they blew up the house that they told me they were going to blow up with their hostage rescue team. Just blew the shit out of this house of a poor old Mexican couple. I tried to tell you. But yeah, using the local resources, that's the way it's supposed to work. You go get the guy that actually knows who these people are and can tell you exactly what they look like. He can tell you history about them. And that, I think that proves out here in the movie, though, when they do the one scene and the FBI's like, he goes up and checks along the fence and finds their whiskey bottle, and then he turns to the other agent, go check the fence.
Yeah, I just, I mean, this is an experienced cop. He goes, okay, I'm used to chasing people, but the very first thing I do when I'm in an area that I'm not as familiar with is I go find somebody who's familiar with it that will work with me, right?
That's just good police work.
And more importantly, he listens to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
Yes.
No, and he obviously is getting to know who Ted Hinton is, and he's done his research, and Ted was on the scene of one of them, and he failed to shoot, and it's probably because he had feelings for Bonnie, right? And he digs that out because this is going to end up being his partner, right? To get to know, and he ends up having to explain to this guy, hey, these ain't the people they used to be. They're killers now, right? And so he has an honest conversation. This is, it's kind of like, when you're sitting in a car with your new radio partner. Okay, do you carry a backup? Where's it at? And you're just going through the nuts and bolts of working with somebody, right? And setting expectations. And he kind of does that too, which is that is typical for an old time copper with the new guy, right, John?
Yep. I used to also, we talked about that, but also when we search people, we both search them one after the other, because I could miss something and vice versa. And it's happened before. There's all sorts of things you go over.
But these are kind of things that, I mean, if you're not into law enforcement, maybe you'll understand this. But that's the way I kind of see it, Scott, is that's just getting to know who you're going to be, who you're going to rely on, and that they got your back, and that you can count on them in a gunfight or in the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to. We're going home tonight, period.
That's like when I let trainees eat.
Yeah.
Or chew in the car. And all the other TOs, what the are you doing? Hey, I want him in the game. I don't want him worried about his next cigarette or his stomach growling all shit or he needs to chew. I don't care because I want to go home. I want him in the game 100%. Yeah. So if he needs a cigarette, I'll let him have a cigarette.
Yep. And if he needs to get a bite to eat, give him a bite to eat. He needs a little bit of break, lifting his head. You want him lifting and looking and not having his head buried in paperwork.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Right till the end of shift.
That's right. So, but that's what, when I think that's one of the values of our show is when we watch the movie like this, we see it a little differently, right? And we see it based upon our own experience, and that's what I saw in this scene, right? And here's where he's given I think he's given the, hey, these ain't the people they used to be. These are killers, right? And but that's what I liked about this movie when it comes to Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, I enjoyed the Bonnie and Clyde movie with Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty. I mean, but they were glorified in that flick, and they don't do that in this movie, not at all, not at all, which is good. All right, let's see here. We have to catch up a little bit here, so let's roll right into our next scene. I think I call this Bonnie and Clyde pop culture is what I kind of, so this is they're kind of hanging out where they think Bonnie and Clyde's going to be, right? They're trying to well, it's just like anything. You get intel and you stake out the area that they're most likely to show up at, and they actually show up in this area. And it's Woody Harrelson's character who recognizes it. I think Hamer's seeing somebody. He's watching somebody. He recognizes also that something's going on. And here's Hamer. But as Galt, Woody Harrelson's character takes out his gun and thinks he's going to at least get a beat on Bonnie and Clyde. They get surrounded, and that's the part I think most people don't understand. This is the well, I don't know. I guess it's kind of, you have some of these gangster rappers, kind of the same thing. These are pop culture icons. That's what Bonnie and Clyde became. That's why you had the movie Bonnie and Clyde. That's why you have this movie. Yeah, we've had, I don't know how many movies made about Bonnie and Clyde. The fact that she wrote poetry and she was a pretty girl, and she went from the good side of the tracks to the bad side of the tracks with a bad boy, and all of that stuff made these guys not just killers but pop icons. But also back then they were
folk heroes.
They were folk heroes, right? As not all of the meanies at the time, but Dillinger was kind of seen as a little bit of a folk hero, and a lot of these, because they were robbing banks, right? And then they like Dillinger, carved a gun out of, I think, either wood or soap to get out, and so he was
painted black.
He was smart and cagey, and but these guys, I don't want to say they're smart and cagey, but they were very capable at evading and escaping and getting away. Now they used some really heavy firepower to do that. But here's Galt, or Woody Harrelson's character. He sees them, and then all these people recognize who they are, and they surround the car. Now I don't know how true this is. I mean, a lot of this is true to life, but this many people surrounding a car, I don't know. I don't know how true it is, but they couldn't interact, and they couldn't chase them just because all of these people,
right.
Saw Bonnie and Clyde as heroes and protected them.
Well, everybody hated banks because they were foreclosed on everybody.
Yeah.
Farms and everything. So to them, it was, hey, they're Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah, but they didn't necessarily take care of everybody with the money. Right? They weren't Robin Hoods. They were robbing hoods. They were hoods that were robbing, but they weren't necessarily giving them. Yes, the 1967 film is somewhat glorifying their lives, but I don't care about that. Well, okay, it's a good movie. Let me put it that way, Gambit. I can't remember who wrote that, but because we did, it's great movie, great actresses, great actor in Bonnie and Clyde, but they were stone cold killers. They killed 12 people, killed people in cold blood, and people glorified them. And part of this is also the media, right? At the media time of the John, they would glorify this because if Bonnie and Clyde do another bank robbery, they publicize it, and it sells
newspapers.
So, which is what you see a little bit of that today, right?
A little.
I did people just on social media now, they'll do anything to get clicks. The original pitch by Fausto is possible that Paul Newman and Robert Redford project in development Universal Pictures, and never came to fruition, even if both of those actors were out. Yeah, that would have been a good matchup. But I think Costner and Harrelson did a good job in this.
Absolutely.
I don't think it would have been as good if it was Paul Newman and Robert Redford.
You don't think so?
I agree. And one of my reasonings is they were such a great two in Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, but it had some comedy in it. It had real life. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it. And I don't see them in that setting.
To me,
Yeah.
they're not gritty enough.
Yeah.
They're too, like, they work together. I mean, Butch Cassidy and Sundance, great movie. The Sting, great movie.
Yeah.
They just don't seem gritty enough.
Yeah, you'd have to break out of you'd have to, like, forget those character roles where they're, I mean, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Newman was kind of just a fun guy, right? He was the leader, but he wasn't the serious guy that you see with Costner here, right?
They threw a lot of comedy into that tongue-in-cheek stuff, and Newman later on, when he played Hombre and a few other things, and he played a detective, he can get gritty, but I think these two were grittier and tougher and more of the Texas in them.
Yeah.
My personal opinion.
Well, you'd have to shake off the picture of those in the guys in the Sting and Butch Cassidy and Sundance to see them in these roles. But we've seen Harrelson, and he was in True Detective, which I thought was a great series.
Excellent.
With him and McConaughey, and Costner's kind of played the silent, kind of tough guy, open range. That's the way he was, right? And he's done a good job. I think even he was in Hatfield and McCoy's, right? And he kind of plays that.
That TV miniseries.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, so he kind of plays this.
He was vicious in that.
Silent tough guy, and that's kind of a role you see him in, right?
Right.
And, so I think he's done it better. But here, they chase him. I thought this whole where they're in the dirt there at the whatever, probably a field. It's probably a farm field that's fallow right now.
Yeah.
And that Bonnie and Clyde, it sounds like just the way they did that, they made them look foolish, right? And they got away. And I go, could that really happen? It probably does, right? But they get them going in circles, get the dust up, and they're taken off. While Harrelson and Costner are still trying to find them. I don't know. I thought it was a good scene, but they get away from them. And I think the most important part of the scene is just how much of an icon Bonnie and Clyde were back in the day, and a lot of the Public Enemy #1s were sold by the media. But part of this was also the FBI. They built them up so that when they took them down, you know what I mean? Do you agree, John? The FBI kind of built them up so that when they took them down, they were seen as the premier law enforcement agency.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly and all that, everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I think Machine Gun Kelly threatened Hoover, and Hoover's one of the ones that took him down in person.
Oh, did he go and take him down in person? Yeah, well, he made sure it was really safe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He
wasn't in his dress. He went in a suit, and he took him down when it was safe.
Yeah. I know Villanueva is running again, against Luna, and so far I've interviewed, I think, 2 of the candidates. I'm going to get 3 here pretty soon that are running. Brendan Corbett's running for sheriff, but the one thing I will say about Alex that I liked is when they were doing the George Floyd and the riots and protests were going on, he was right out there, right out front, put the riot gear on, worked with the guys, and supported them 100%. I thought that was laudable. You don't see that. I'm obviously when I joined, Locke was way too old to do that, and Baca would have never done that, and nothing against McDonald on that, but he would have been behind the scenes. None of them would have been up front working with their team like Villanueva did. I kind of see that did you see the ICE guy, the Border Patrol guy in Chicago? Somebody put a hit on him. If you take him out, they'll pay $50,000 for him. Bavino or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's out there, and some judge said, "Oh, I want you in my courthouse at 6:30 in the evening every night to explain what you did during that day." Some district federal judge, and I want you personally, the head guy, to wear a body camera. That's what. So that
judge got spanked.
She got spanked. Yes, she did.
Worthless piece of crap.
Way overreach, and she got spanked by the appeals court. But out front, right out front, they're doing the dirty work, and I did like that about him. Now, in between this scene and next scene is when I didn't do this scene. It's when William Sadler talked about his son. The actor. It's basically Clyde is his son, and he talks about him stealing a chicken and going to prison, and he came out a different man,
As a kid, yeah.
As a kid.
Well,
And
that may be true, but something was off in that kid before that.
Yeah, and I liked how Costner handled it, right? Because there is this effort to write history in a sympathetic way towards Clyde, who killed 6 people. And what I always say, because I get on a serious push on this one on my other show, is like there are a lot of people who suffer in life and never turn out to be killers and rapists.
This is true,
right? And so to excuse the killers and rapists because they had tough lives, we should be looking at those who didn't do that and had those tough lives. Instead, we make excuses for those who kill and rape because they had a tough life. I'm sorry, I can't make those. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't that used as a defense every time somebody goes to trial? I mean, look at the Menendez brothers.
Oh God,
their dad molested them. Well, there's never been any proof, and the dad can't refute it because he's dead.
Yep.
And it's like, why are you? Nobody ever heard of that. Nobody in the family had ever heard of that until they needed to use that as a defense.
Right.
Exactly.
Even their psychologist didn't hear about it,
Right.
And that's what sank them, that's what sank them. And I was glad that Nathan Hochman won, and I was glad that he shut that down because Gascon would have found a way to let him out.
Oh yeah, big time.
Absolutely. And I actually their lawyer Bernice Abrams, I had her on a case, and I was on the stand, and she's calling me a liar and all this other stuff.
Abrams.
Yeah, it was a 2-defendant case, and I'm on the stand testifying, and it's, I was saying, well, I heard a broadcast, and I found the guys, and they did a robbery. They had a shotgun. There's 3 people in the car. I pulled them over, and it ended up being them. And I took the broadcast. I get a copy of the broadcast. I take it to court with me. I'm testifying, and they play the tape. And what I said, had I heard, was not on the broadcast frequency. You already know what's going to happen, right? And I'm listening to 2 radios when I'm in the car, right? And I hadn't explained that, and she's calling me a liar. She says, "See, you're lying. It's not here. You're lying." And I'm like, no, I definitely heard it. I said, well, why don't you flip over the tape? Maybe it's on the backside, and they flip over the tape, and it's tactical frequency. And over the tactical frequency, you hear you hear the description, right? And it comes out, and she's still calling me a liar, right?
Yeah, was that the blonde lady? The blonde?
Yes, yeah. Bernice Abrams, she's still calling me a liar
because Bernice Abrams was a deputy. But
I
know who you're talking about.
Abramson. It was Abramson.
Stacey Abramson.
Hey, Stacey. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry about that.
She was awful. She was
and but
hated that woman.
The other guy who had the other defendant said, he said, okay, I don't have any. And Abramson is still calling me a liar. And Stacey Abramson. That's right. I'm sorry, John. And
no, that's all right. Abramson was a worthless attorney.
And finally, the judge says, Miss Abramson, I think we need to move forward. I think he's just proven that he heard it. He says, yeah, I had 2 radios going, the tactical and the other one, so I heard the description. I didn't realize it was off the other one, So, but yeah, that's what I heard. And so they got 18 years. So it was a good hook. But so she was a piece of work, So. But anyways, I did like the scene, and Kevin Costner does explain, well, maybe there's something in your son that caused him to be this. So let's not blame it on everybody else. I mean, he has killed 12 people. And Sadler, and to his defense and his character role, he kind of implied there's only one way this can end, and it needs to end because it's bad. It's bad for us. And it's interesting because when I was working with criminals and trying to turn them around stuff, these guys said that it was hard to rebuild the trust with the family because a lot of these career criminals have absolutely destroyed the trust with their families. And you kind of see that with Clyde's dad. There's only one way this can end. This is not how he was raised. I know he's my boy. I love him, but I know there's only one way this and the pain being visited on the family will end when this is over with. And he kind of talks about that.
Yep.
And that's true with career criminals. You think about it. You see how these eye detectives, these daughters and sons or wives, these serial killers, and you think, God, they destroyed everybody's life around them, just about, right? And that's
Yep.
that's what I didn't use the scene, but that's what I liked about that scene.
And his dad was a down to earth, hard scrabble farmer trying
Yeah.
to make ends meet in the worst time in the world. So, yeah. God bless him.
Yeah. So, but so even though they humanized Clyde a little bit, they didn't go overboard on it. I guess is kind of how I saw it. What did you think, Scott?
No, I think that's. I think it's pretty much family's been through a lot. I mean, I know I had a guy shoot at deputies, and I made the family's lives miserable until he finally decided to turn himself in. And we're doing the interview. I said, "Well, why did you decide to turn yourself in?" He's like, "Because nobody in my family would talk to me."
Right.
So, I mean, but my father would have been the same way. He would have said, I love him. He's my son, but he's done a lot of bad things. So I know it's only going to turn out one way.
Yep.
Well, let's roll with Clyde as king, and as we do that, Martine, you said that they glorified Bonnie and Clyde in the first movie, but they kind of walked a good tightrope, explaining how he might have got on the criminal path without really making him a sympathetic character, right? You kind of agree that the movie makers, did a pretty good job handling that.
In which one?
And this one right now, the movie right now, where they they talked about the mitigating issues with Clyde, but they really didn't make him super sympathetic, right? They just here's the issues, but he is a killer.
Yes. There was that scene in the gas station with the guy who worked there is mistakenly sympathetic to them. Makes the big mistake. Say to the Rangers, I wish Bonnie and Clyde all the luck.
Yeah.
Because they are good. They just saw the two
officers.
Bikers, the two officers being slain, and they knew what it was done to them and why. It was for amusement.
Yep.
And then they say, "Oh boy, you said the wrong thing."
Yeah, that I didn't forget about that scene, but I'm glad you brought it up. But in this scene now, remember the very first scene when we opened up where they're escaping? This was the guy, one of the other guys with the 45. Now he's in a bar. He's in a bar that's friendly to Clyde. That's why I called the scene Clyde is King here, right? And I think they say that in the scene, right?
Yes.
And,
I don't think he was armed though in the escape.
Yeah, he was running.
He was running and stopped because a car drove away.
Right. He didn't get away, and but now he's pretending to be a friend of Clyde's, and the girls are interested in him. And of course, what do, Scott? You go to the family and friends and the crime partners to get information on Clyde, right? That's it. That's how you do it, right?
Good police work.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Start putting pressure on people. Somebody's bound to start talking. No matter what people say, that snitches get stitches, and you talk to any good detective, they'll be like, "You know how many snitches we have?" You put enough pressure on people involved, the family and friends, that somebody starts. People don't like the pressure, right? Nobody likes pressure. So you start putting a little stress and pressure on them, they start telling you what you need to know.
Yeah, because here's the deal: he doesn't want to go back to Eastland Prison either.
No.
Nope, he doesn't want to go back there, because it's a hard scrabble place, tough place, and manual labor. I mean, he called them, stop playing the junior gangster act here, you know, which I kind of liked. And Harrelson, his character ends up going to the bathroom, and four guys following him in, and he takes care of business here. This is where he says, "Yeah, Clyde is king," and then of course he does what he has to do. I don't know how much of this is true, but I do believe that they probably went to places that they did not feel safe because it was Clyde country, and you saw this, even Jesse James, when you think back to these old bank robbers, the Jesse James and who are the brothers that were with them? I'm losing track. This was the
Daltons?
No, that was later on. It was Jesse James and the God brothers. I can't think of who they were, but they were all old Confederates, and they operated in Missouri and Confederate areas, and they had a lot of people that looked out for them. And that's what they're kind of explaining here in Texas. Certain areas of Texas were very sympathetic. Texas, Louisiana were very sympathetic to Bonnie and Clyde, and you weren't going to Youngers. Thank you so much, Cam. That's it. Cole Younger and his brothers. Yeah, the Younger brothers. Thank you so much. But that was similar kind of dynamic. There were certain areas they could go that they felt safe, and and these folks were all allegedly looking out for Clyde. But our guys, hey, you got to go into the lion's den if you're ever going to catch a lion, right? And and that's what they're doing. What do you think of the scene, John?
Oh, I agree. It was excellent police work, actually. That's what they had to do.
Yeah, I wrote my notes. Yeah, informant, crime partners giving up the goods, and McNabb later killed. So this guy ends up giving the goods, and it does show that he's later killed. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't check it out. I couldn't find any information on it. So, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised. So, but you have to go in the lion's den if you're going to catch the lion, and that's what he does. And this guy ends up giving the goods up to Hamer. And the part of the other thing is okay, Clyde is the threat down the road, Hamer's the threat sitting in front of me.
Yep.
And he has a reputation, right? That helps in something like this. He's a famed lawman. They know he's killed in the past, and he's using that mystique to intimidate this guy who is likely easily intimidated. So.
Oh yeah, when just to give him some more background on Hamer, when he was the sheriff of one county, they had a black guy that was in prison, and they had a mob that wanted to attack and take him out. Hamer shot one and killed him, wounded two others before they burnt down the courthouse, and Hamer escaped. But he ain't afraid about doing somebody. He's got a hell of a reputation. So, it's like on these new movies now, or you see them all these movies or TV shows. The spy ones. Guy's got a gun to his head. He goes, "They'll kill me if I tell you." Well, what do you think I'm gonna fucking do?
Well, he does tell the story about going into Mexico, and he doesn't necessarily say it is with the U.S. Army, that they're just going to round up some bandits, right? And that they do go into a bandit camp. He ends up killing a bunch of Mexican bandits, right? But that was, when I looked that up, it was in the context of Blackjack Pershing going into Mexico after Pancho Villa attacked one of our towns along the border in Mexico. Kevin Costner gained 15 pounds to give himself a middle-aged potbelly as Hamer. Yeah, okay. In contrast, Woody Harrelson kept a strict vegan diet. Hey, thanks for the tip on this, Gambit. That's interesting. Sights on sets. Harrelson drinking juice greens from a jar while in costume. Well, they made him kind of an alcoholic in this one, and you missed. I don't know if you missed it, but we went through all the real life guys at the beginning of the show, and Galt, the real life Woody Harrelson, who he's portraying, was not an alcoholic. He was a stand-up guy. Didn't drink. So they kind of used a composite of characters. Some of the old Texas Rangers were alcoholics, but he was not. But they kind of made that, I guess, to build the character. But when you look him up, after all of this, that simply wasn't true, and he ended up coming back to the Texas Ranger and being a solid leader, and had a leadership role in Texas Ranger after this. And
well, also in the movie, they made Galt out like he was down and out, living with his daughter and grandson, and the house is being foreclosed on, and he's all disheveled. But in real life, when Ma Ferguson got rid of the Texas Rangers, he went to work at like a dairy farm. I mean, he had some odd jobs that he worked, so he wasn't like destitute or anything like that. But the movie made him out to be destitute and an alcoholic, and which was not what he really was.
So it's in the early 1930s. It was the Barrel Gang, along with the Dillinger Gang and the Barker Carpish Gang, and others, exploited the lack of centralized interstate law enforcement authority by using using all the roadways, the state lines. Yeah, that is very true, and that's why this helped build the name of the FBI and give them the reputation. I have to tell you, since Kash Patel took over the FBI, I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. They're going after real criminals. They busted up that terrorist ring in Michigan, and they're advertising it, and which is what I remember. I got this guy who trolls me, former FBI guy in his 70s. He doesn't use his real name. But when I bashed the FBI for what they were doing under Biden, oh my God, he goes crazy, right? He trolls me all the time, and I just say I'm just glad to see they're back to chasing crooks, which is what they should have been all along, and that should have always been their primary duty. It's what made us all like the FBI, even though we might have our own conflicts with them. Alcohol has always been a medicine law enforcement and soldiers use to blot out their horrors. Yeah, that's to some degree that's true, Can. Although I think that is a stereotype that's more consistent with the past than today. I think we all know that.
Some stop drinking.
Yeah, did you stop drinking, Scott?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe I think I had a glass of wine for the first time, alcohol, in probably 3 months this weekend, when I went out. So I just with the medicine I'm on for some issues I have, I'm already sleepy. If I have a drink, man, I'm ready to go to bed. So and I got too much to do.
Now and then, but I don't, on the most part, like there's nothing like coming in from working out, my property, and during the summer you're hot, you're sweaty, and then grabbing a nice ice cold beer out of the fridge. I mean, that's sometimes, but it's not like I have 2 or 3. I'll have one with my lunch.
That's it. Yeah.
But I don't drink.
I go out tonight with the wife. We're going to the game. We'll have dinner at the steakhouse at Park MGM. I'll have a Manhattan one. That's it.
But I did the other show, and I did the Peace Officer Fellowship on that show, where I talked about guys that struggle with alcohol. And you'll know the guy, but I won't say his name. And he made a comment to me, and that he says, you know what, I drank all the time and never had a problem, but every time I had the problem, I had been drinking. And which is, if you think about that, and he says, that's why I gave up alcohol, and that's why I help others. And I know you'll know who the guy's name was, but so I won't say it. But I really thought, wow, I never thought of it that way. I drink all the time and never have a problem, but every time I had a problem, I always had been drinking, right? So which is very true, right? So
I worked with him. He's a good dude.
You know who I'm talking about then. All right. Okay. Let's, I want to get back here. So this next scene, I called it gumshoe policing, right? So what you see with Hamer and Galt is, they're talking out theories. They're talking about how do we find out where they're at. Here they're reading all the documentation to see if they can't come up with something, to see if they missed something. And they obviously, it clues on them. Why are we keep chasing Bonnie and Clyde? Why don't we look at the other crime partner to see what his background is and where his base of support might be? And that ultimately leads them to Louisiana and meeting Sheriff Jordan. I like this last name, Sheriff Jordan there. And they eventually try to bribe the sheriff there, right? And then the sheriff gets a little pissed because he's not corrupt, right? But he ends up
a great way to smoke him out, though.
Yeah, because he needs to know, are these guys on the take? Are they helping Bonnie and Clyde because they're getting money? Who are these guys? And of course, it's it's easy to do the stereotype that everybody's corrupt, but the fact that they had to smoke them out indicates that there is corruption, right? That because a lot of these, I mean, even today, the guys in the South, unless you're in a major city like Atlanta, they don't make very much.
No,
right? No, they don't
we
make.
got a huge scandal right now in our little county.
Yeah,
because a retired cop who just moved to the county. Speculation is he's going to run for sheriff. So what does the local sheriff do? He posts something about Charlie Kirk's murder, which was basically he said what Trump said and reversed it. And the sheriff, he was locked in jail for 30 days for terrorist threats or some crap. And finally, a judge is like, there's no charge. You can't arrest him for posting something like this. There's no threats made. So he sat in jail for 30 days. So now everybody's going after the sheriff, like, why did you even arrest him in the first place? And he's like, blah, 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 blah. He can't explain it because I want to get dirt on my future political opponent. So
I want to say he was in jail for making threats when he runs for sure. Yeah, yeah. That definitely is playing dirty. So, and but here, the fact that they're going through it's like, okay, we're not having any luck, and they go back to the documents and they start looking at the documents and they start thinking about theories. How do I make this work? How do we figure this out? And they decide, okay, well, let's focus on the other crime partner because we're not being productive focusing on the background of Bonnie and Clyde. And this is what leads to ultimately to Louisiana, to the sheriff there. And they show the swamps of Louisiana. And I think this is the BRF scene, right, where they try out the BAR, right? And but they also here's the other part that I think we should talk about here is at the time in the 30s you had all of these I don't want to call them hobo sites, but sites where people who had tent cities, people who had nothing, came together and survived on the basics, and we didn't have the kind of safety nets that we have today because it was Roosevelt was just getting in office, right? And they were just putting these different things together. So you had all these tent cities everywhere, and these tent cities were supportive of Bonnie and Clyde because, as we talked about, they were robbing the banks, right? I'm sure they were sharing when they were being hidden by these guys. Hail to the chief! Oh, thank you, Joe. And but this is and these guys, of course, they know they're going into territory so they're taking their guns with them, right? But they're doing the gumshoe stuff. They're trying to figure out the other crime partner. That's what I liked about this scene, Scott, is they were failing. See, it ain't working. We got to shift gears, and that's what they do, right? And let the feds chase Bonnie and Clyde over in Dallas and other parts of Texas. Let's go to Louisiana because we think we got a lead there. And this is ultimately pans out for them, right?
Yeah, they. Just good. Again, just good police work. It's like, okay, wait a minute, we're chasing our tail with these two, and now we got a message that says we're moving to greener pastures. So basically, it's like this is too hot for us to stay in. We got to move. So then they start looking at where do they not have warrants out for them? What states do they not have warrants? And then I think Woody Harrelson says, well, Kansas. And he's like, no, that's too close to Oklahoma. They have to drive through, unfriendly territory to get there. And then that's when they're like, well, Melville's dad lives in Louisiana. And then they're like, that's on the list of not having any warrants.
Right.
And that's when it clicked to them is like, this is the greener pasture because there's nothing that's a small area in Louisiana and nobody's going to expect them to go there.
And that's why they had to make sure the sheriff wasn't corrupt too.
Right.
Okay, why don't they have warrants there, right?
Right.
Right. So, but yeah, that's what I liked about the scene. I just called it good old gumshoe detective work, thinking out of the box. It's like this isn't working for us. What should we be doing? How do we switch? And in this case, they end up finding Melville's house, and they're searching it. And of course, Bonnie and Clyde are not there at the time. But they do realize when they look at their closets that this is their hangout, though. They're in the area. This is an area that they come to, and they recognize that they're probably the only ones onto this lead. The FBI's not onto it. And of course, that's when they know the weakest link is probably the father now. Let's work the father, as was the guy in the bar, right? So
Yep.
They're looking for the weak links to find these guys. So good work, right, John? This is
absolutely. Very good work. Intuitive.
So it's here's the thing: they got all these dark shadows too, right? So it kind of adds to the, after they're
film noir.
Yeah, but also they didn't have all the lights like we have now, right? It's candles and gas lamps. We don't know, but it goes with the dark suits and the fedoras. No flashlights. Yeah. So it's just here we got suspenders for our middle-aged guy too. So the old style dress. But yeah, they're figuring out they're playing house. So this is where they're hanging out now, and they're laying low. And when I have to do some more of these 30s gangster movies, because they had areas that they could go to lay low that they felt safe. And this for this area, for these guys, it was Louisiana for them. So, but they are on to it. So, all right, I think the next scene we're going to just roll right into, because I got to catch up, and this was the setup. So they do figure out, just roll right into it, Martine. So they do figure out who the dad is. The dad is a woodcutter. Here he is, and they pressure him to help them out. And it was interesting. He says, well, you know what? I don't want you to do it at my house, because I don't want you to shoot at my house, because Clyde paid for that, and I like my house. So did you catch that when he said that in the scene?
Yeah.
So, and so he agrees to help set them up, but he does it also because he didn't want anybody to kill his boy too. So he's doing it for two reasons: self-preservation of himself, and hopefully he'd get his son out of it. And his son, if you read through the cases, the real he was a killer too. And so if you think about it the right way, his dad actually probably negotiated a pretty good deal. His son's a killer, killed cops. He should be going to prison and being executed himself, but he's going to get out on this stuff because they set up Bonnie and Clyde. And we see the justice system making that deal all the time, right? It's just normally through a DA or a court, right, John? So not.
Oh yeah.
Normally the coppers don't have the ability to do that, but we got the sheriff involved, right, in Louisiana, so they make the deal. And once they take out Bonnie and Clyde, at least the Bonnie and Clyde are done killing people. So what'd you think of the scene, Scott? The family, friends, somebody will roll over, right?
Yep, Dad's rolling over just as long as his son doesn't get killed.
Yep.
He doesn't want it done at his house, but I thought it was funny is, well, Clyde bought it for me, but I don't want you shooting it up. Oh, okay, that makes it some kind of shrine? I mean, so no, that's usually what happens. You put it, like I said, you put enough pressure and stress on a family. And what more better stressor is there? Even in movies, based on what better stressor is, I'm going to take out your kids.
Well, Gambit, Frank Hamer died because he's a smoker. I don't know what he died of, but I saw him smoking in this thing. I go, I bet you what catches this guy. And this was the smoking was a lot of people smoked way back when. It was the vice beyond alcohol for a lot of these folks. And I don't know how, if you're an actor and you don't smoke, how you could end up getting, you know what I mean? I would have a hard time with that. I'd have to condition myself, and then you get hooked on this stuff, right?
Well, it's funny. Kevin Costner smokes through the whole thing.
I know, that's what I mean. It's
Woody
like
Harrelson doesn't smoke at all.
When I moved to California in 1981 from Detroit, Michigan, I'm telling you, 80% of adults smoked, and then I came to California, and it was complete opposite. 20% of the people smoked or less, It was, and because I used to go to well, all right, I did go to bars when I was underage. It did happen. When I go in there, everybody's smoking, and it's like, you'd see the plume at the top of the bar, right, and yellowed walls in the bar because it's smoking. And of course, when it's Michigan, so half the time, there's a lot of snow, so everybody's inside, right? You don't got the patio to go to. And then I come to California and nobody smokes, almost nobody smokes, and I'm like, wow, this is, except when you worked at jails. Everybody smoked in the jails.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
The inmates, because it was something to do to pass time.
Remember they had the lighters in the wall?
Yeah.
You just have to touch a little button and light their cigarette.
Oh, my God.
They finally got rid of that, thank God.
Got rid of it is Alex Villanueva bought it.
Well, I thought they got rid of it when I was still working.
He said he said that we need to get it's a health issue for the deputies. That was the big thing that he had conflict, because the sheriff's department sold the cigarettes to him, so they made money off that, right? And Alex Villanueva got rid of it, and that was, I think, something that pissed off, because that's a lot of money when all these guys are smoking.
Right. The stores. Yeah. I remember I smoked for 25 years. I started when I first joined the Marine Corps, because it was a way to get out of cleaning toilets. The smokers could go outside and smoke. So that's how I started. But in the jail, they could buy a pack of cigarettes. And I don't remember at the time, it was like $2 maybe.
Yeah. So
I asked the store lady, hey, I want to buy a pack of cigarettes. Oh, I can't sell it to you. I said, what do you mean you can't sell it to me? I can't. And I said, why not? She goes, because I can't. We sell them cheaper. The sheriff's department sells it cheaper than you can buy it on the streets. So you'd have to pay, but they don't allow us to sell to deputies.
Ah.
And I'm like, really? These guys are in here for robbing and stealing and everything else, and they get a break on cigarettes, but the deputies that work there don't.
I bet you it was they didn't have to pay the tax on it. I bet you
Probably.
That's what it was. And but even still, what's a pack of cigarettes probably cost to make? 25 cents, and they're selling them for $2. There's a big profit margin. Everybody's making money off that stuff. All right, let's so they got them set up, and actually, if you remember Bonnie and Clyde, the real movie, it was set up the same way. They had Melville's dad pretending like his wheel was off and needed help to slow them down on this road that they knew they traveled, and it was set up the same way in this movie, right? And it's let's roll with it's them, and they got Ted Hinton with them. They got him with some binoculars, and his job is to say whether it's him or not, whether Bonnie's in there or not, it's them or not. There was a lot going on during the period of history between Prohibition and the stock market crash and subsequent depression, and the rise of bank robbers. Yeah, we already talked about bootleggers and gangsters wild. And this was the era where the FBI became famous because they were the G-men who took them down, right? And a lot of these guys down. And Hoover was pretty smart. He understood what he needed to do. But as we roll with the scene, it's them. Let's you see them coming up the road, and it's almost like they're sitting on a hunting blind, Scott.
Yeah.
You can't see them. And, the deer's going to come up and stop in front of them, and then they're going to unload on them, right? It's almost like they're in a hunting blind. And I'm curious if this has really happened where Hamer came out in front of them, or if that was.
No, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I would think that, I think this was more. Thank you for saying that, Martina. I thought it was more Hollywood than reality when he did this, where he stepped out in front of them.
They all stand up and just they don't say a word. They just stand up and just bullet metal.
Yep.
Because
unload.
And they chose to do that because Bonnie and Clyde were so lethal.
Yep.
That they said, if we give them a second, if we lay eyes on us, we're dead.
And so you kind of they show that, Martin, in the movie, right? Where I think part of the scene where he steps out and they got a chance. It implies that they have a chance to surrender, and of course they don't, right? But it also shows in the scene they had no intention of surrendering, which kind of leads to the justification why they just opened up when they came up, right? In real life, because how do you show that they killed them in cold blood, but in reality, they did what they had to do because this is who they were, cold-blooded killers. So.
Yeah, and they had 3 on each side of the road.
Oh, in the real life?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like when they're showing pictures of the car, from the time
Yeah.
it happened. That's why Bonnie's side of the car is all riddled with bullets also.
She got they said he got hit 17 times and she got hit like 23 or something, or 26 times. So she got the hit with the brunt of the bullets there. That's why cigarettes aren't illegal, because everybody is making money. Yeah, to this day. Yeah,
Yep.
but you know what, Cam, then they legalized marijuana. So yeah, okay, all these people who were putting taxes on cigarettes, saying how evil these companies are, and it's these same anti-corporation political leaders who attacked, and I never smoked in my life, who attacked the cigarette companies, or the same morons who voted to support legalized marijuana.
Just now they're showing causes lung cancer.
Yeah, duh. And the American Lung Institute said it at the time. And so all these same, Democrats who supported this nonsense, and free corporation people support, a lot of them are anti-corporation. Oh yeah, we got to legalize marijuana because it was a political thing for them. Now we're destined. A lot of people who are going to have medical issues for the rest of their lives because they smoke this stuff all the time, right? So here they are. This is where I didn't think this happened. Thanks for Martine for pointing that out. And this is really the first time you only see Bonnie and Clyde. You see their faces in the movie. This is the only real time. And it's after this, they get all shot up, right? So, and they really didn't have a chance. They were bought and paid for once they rolled up into this trap. And it was a different era though with law enforcement. This, given how many people they killed, this would have been considered justified at the time, a clean shooting, right, John?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yep. Though I read somewhere in here when I was doing some research on it that the very first shot hit Clyde in the temple, and he was downed from there on. But then they just kept shooting and riddled him. Looked like Swiss cheese.
I don't think they shot him enough.
Exactly.
We have all these rounds. We're going to use them.
Damn right. Why
this is
why you have to carry the rounds back?
Yeah.
Well, this is why they had the BAR, right? They had a BAR. We got a BAR.
Yeah. Well, look at how we all got AR-15s after the North Hollywood shooting.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Ain't that the truth?
So again, and this car gets all shot up. And it's interesting because I think they probably did as close to what happened, and they ended up taking out their 6 shooters when they're done, and they're still shooting at the car because Clyde takes his foot off the brake. And when I saw him shooting like this, I thought, man, this is pretty dangerous the way they're shooting uncontrolled here now. And I can remember giving a briefing, okay, the half semicircle around the car probably isn't the best way to do a felony traffic stop at one of the Century. I was at Century Station, and man, everybody thought I was criticizing their tactics. I'm saying, listen, you're in an uncontrolled situation where nobody's in control, and you're putting yourself at risk with this whole nonsense. Let's go back to the basics. And I did that in the first briefing, and my second briefing of the day was a standing room only because I was daring to challenge the tactics used by the guys. And so that's just the way to go. Let's see. I speak as a smoker. Okay. Wish I had never. My mom has. Yeah. It's bad stuff.
So did my dad.
My mom has some emphysema. She had to stop. She stopped 20 years ago, but she still's got lung issues because she smoked for 50 years.
COPD is awful.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry to hear that, Cam. For your mom, and if you can give it up, dude. So.
Cold turkey. I went cold turkey.
Did you go cold turkey? Yeah.
I saw my 40-year-old brother-in-law who was dying, and we're visiting him, and they're sucking fluid out of his lungs because he's basically, you drown when you have lung cancer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I looked at my 2 small kids and said, I'm not going out that way.
Yeah, you wanna see the grandkids, right? So
right.
You ain't gonna do that. We got one more scene. I know we're a little over time. Let's roll with that scene. And I think typical politician is what I called it. And so after Hamer and Galt take out Bonnie and Clyde with the rest of their team,
Ma Ferguson.
What does Ma Ferguson do? She gets up there
Takes
on
the
the
credit.
stump talking about how she knew they were going to do it, and she takes the credit, just like every politician does, right? And did you know cops are back in vogue now? We had 10 years where you wouldn't see a cop behind a politician because they were too busy bashing us. Now that crime has gone up, you see politicians on the stage with the cop behind them and talking about how they're supportive of law enforcement. And
Yeah, even the ones that say defund the police.
Yeah, now
some
they're
idiot
supportive.
cop will stand
They're
there.
a sellout. I mean, they're just sellouts to me.
So Mar Ferguson was a defund the policer in the Depression era, and then the cops do the right, make her look good, and now suddenly the Texas Rangers are back, and they are still back to this day, probably because of Frank
Thank
Hamer.
God.
Hamer and Galt end up going back to work for the Texas Rangers and help build an excellent reputation as a policing agency. Hey, good movie, right, John?
It was an excellent movie. And little do you know, Lee Simmons that ran the jails,
Yeah.
he did all this stuff. Remember Wayside when we first came on?
Yeah.
Had pigs and a dairy. He did all that back there in 1930. He started all that and putting heaters and all that because it was ice cold in these places. He was a reformer back in the 30s.
Yep. Well, I mean, Wayside was supposed to be for the drunks and alcoholics that got put in jail, and minimum anyways, which was still operating when I started. In fact, I think I was an off the streeter at minimum, and then I went to Max. So just one interesting story between Wayside, Max, and Min, and then we'll let our guys go. So the last fully sanctioned football game played on the sheriff's department was between Maximum Security, me playing. I worked Wayside Max. I played defensive end. And minimum. We had so many. We went to the local high school. We got their football pads, and we had some former collegiate players, former high school players like me, and we went out there. We beat them 37-7, minimum. The last play of the game, I said, okay, they're losing. They're going to do something trick. And I said, I'm just going to sprint into the backfield, see what I can get, right? So I was going to blitz. Sure enough, they were running a reverse. So, boom. Guy going away from me, passes off to the guy coming towards me, planted that guy, boom, right there. They were, yeah, that was the last play of the game. So, but here's our guys, and they're going through all these. We showed some history. If you guys didn't watch the beginning of the show, I showed some historical photos and explained who these guys are. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie because it was a true story, and they stayed true to the story, and they. The cops are the heroes in this one.
Yeah, and they probably have the least amount of Hollywood added drama to it.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, but yeah, I agree. It's good movie, Scott.
It was a good movie.
Oh yeah, like I said,
the casting was perfect.
Seen it 4 times, so.
Martine,
so I wanted to watch something late at night when I was out here by myself. I put that on.
Yes. So Martine, they did not glorify Bonnie and Clyde in this, and they gave their nod to the cops in this movie, right?
Yeah. At last.
At last, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna get the ire of many people here, but that's everybody says that this other particular movie that it's so great. And I don't like it because of the same thing. I don't like the glorification and it's Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yep.
I mean, I've been victim of crime. I have lost friends because of crime. So there's no way I can see that romantically or adventurous. No.
Yep.
No, I agree with you.
100%.
Great comment from somebody who's a non-cop who's on our show today. All right, folks, that's the end of our show today. I will see you next week. My house is all torn up, so I was glad I was able to put this one together. The whole downstairs is gutted, guys. So, and I haven't heard the workers show up yet today. So, hey, you guys are real life figures working at the Texas Sheriff's Department. Those guys are real life. Yes, that's right. Not the sheriff's station. They work for the
Rangers.
The Rangers, the Texas Rangers. So the movie doesn't glorify the truth either. Yeah, it's just the fact. You know, you had to meet violence with violence back then. All right, guys, thank you for joining me on the show again. Stick around for a quick debrief if you want to talk. And Martine, you can take it away.
Bye, everybody.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Matt Damon.